Welcome, Dr. Jaya's Virtual School, Loic Level 4. Learning Package Academic Week 1 Concept Functions of Stem, Root and Leaves. Principal parts of a vascular plant: root system and shoot system. The shoot has a flower, leaf axil, petiola, terminal bud, lateral bud, leaf blade, node, internode and vascular system. And root system has a primary root, a root hairs, root cap and lateral roots. The functions of stems, roots and leaves. Stem functions: they support leaves and they have tubers, stolon, cactus stems, tendrils and rhizomes and grapes as examples. The roots, the functions are they draw the water and minerals. They are fibrous, fleshy, adventitious, faciled and prop and stab. The leaves, the functions are they perform photosynthesis, they store, it is a storage like onion leaves, tendrils, peas, desert scallops, insectivorous plants, flowers and thorns, that is the rose. Plant biology: roots, shoots, stems and leaves. Your basic vascular plant parts are roots, shoots, stem and leaves. Of course, there is a wealth of variety within these types of parts, but it boils down to those four. Each part has distinct functions. Together, these parts reflect how vascular plants evolved to inhabit two distinct environments at the same time, the soil and the air. Why would plants do such a thing? The soil offers water and vital minerals. The air offers carbon dioxide and the energy of the sunlight. To forge the successful lifestyles they enjoy today, plants evolve systems to tap into all these resources, both above and below the ground. In short, plants evolved roots and shoots in turn can develop stems and leaves. You can go through a plant here. There is a shoot organ system where you have half under the ground and half above the ground. The plant organs and you have plant tissues. The leaf has a tissue, stem has a tissue and root has a tissue. Shoots. Shoots target the above ground business of the plant. Very young plants may possess only simple undeveloped shoots. As a plant grows, however, these tender shoots develop into stems and leaves. So stems and leaves are really part of the shoot system. Stems and leaves are so different and specialized that it is worth considering them separately. Overall, the shoot system enables a plant to grow taller to gain access to energy-giving light and allows the plant to convert that light energy into the chemical energy of sugar. Like roots, shoots develop from ground, dermal and vascular tissues. Stems. Stems are sturdy structures that grow in order to give a plant a fighting chance to spread its leaves in the sun. Stem growth can add to the plant's height, broaden the area covered by the leaves, or even direct growth from a dark area towards one with more light. To provide mechanical support for a growing plant, stems need to be strong. To help move water and nutrients to the furthest reaches of the plant, stems are stuffed with little transport pipes in the form of xylem and phloem. Plant stems perform two basic functions. They support the leaves and flowers and they carry water and food from place to place within the plant. At typical stem is cylindrical and may be soft, herbaceous or woody. It is usually branched and leafy. The point at which a leaf joins the stem is called the node. There are several nodes on a stem, each separated by leafless internodes. Each node has one or more leaves, each of which has a bud in its basal angle, that is axil. The shoot system and the root system provide you different parts with different functions. These axillary buds often remain dormant but may produce a branch, especially if the main stem is damaged. Buds are in fact miniature shoots or stems which have not yet elongated. The leaves are clustered together around the tip, the growing point. It is in the winter that buds are most noticeable. The outer leaves are modified as protective scales around the young stem. When these scale leaves fall off in spring, they leave rings of scars on the stem. The age of a woody twig can be established by counting these scar patches. The main axis of a plant may continue to grow throughout life, giving off branches laterally. This is the racemose branching pattern, well illustrated in larches and Christmas trees. The cymode branching pattern differs in that the main stem apex does not continue through life. It ends in a flower or dies away, and a lateral bud assumes the main position each year. Plants have many functions, and one of them is this too, taking on the animals, helping them out. We need to work on the shoot system. You will have a ground tissue, then vascular tissue. You have dermis too, epidermis. So shoot tip is called apical bud. Then you have flower, and then the leaves, and then you have small nodes, internodes too. Seeds inside the fruits, and lateral bud too. If you go on to the root system, the primary root is the main root. Then you have lateral root. Then you have small root hairs. Then a root tip, and then root cap. Plant growth. Stages in the germination and early growth of a pea. When a seed planted in the soil germinates, the embryo that is formed is elongate in shape. At the tip of the part which grows upward, there is an apical shoot whose growth increases the height of the stem. The downward growing tip will penetrate the soil and branch to form a network of roots. In both cases, actual growth takes place just behind the tip, not along the whole length of the stem and root. Section of the tip of a stem. The growing point is surrounded and protected by the developing leaves. In the axils of the leaves, axillary buds develop into new growing plant. Passage of a stem from embryonic structure to mature structure with differentiated tissues. Here is the plant growth showing growing point with leaves and axillary buds starting to develop. Intermediate stage at which the strands of procambium develops. How a plant grows from a seed. The growing point in a stem is situated right at the tip. It consists of rapidly dividing meristematic cells which are without vacuole. Growth takes place just behind the tip. The cells produced by the meristem develop vacuoles and lengthen rapidly, producing an elongation of the stem. As the cells lengthen, they begin to differentiate. or change in character. The outer cells develop into epidermal cells, and very quickly tiny leaves arise and cover the growing point. Other cells give rise to the cortex, while certain columns of cells retain their ability to divide and are known as procambium strands. In the elongating region, the first conducting tissues, protoxylem and protophyllum, are formed from the proclameal strands. The vascular tissues lengthen very rapidly to form the conducting strands. At about the same time, the first strengthening tissues develop on the outside of the phloem. The proclameal strands tissue continue to produce vascular tissue behind the elongating region until only a narrow band of cambium remains. Here is a growing point and developing of the leaves and axillary buds in a growing plant. Secondary thickening occurs to some degree in most dicotyledons and is especially marked in those with perennial aerial parts. It involves the laying down of extravascular and strengthening tissue necessitated by the increased size of the plant. Some of the cells of the medullary rays become active again and join with the cambium of the vascular bundles to form a meristematic ring. Secondary xylem and phloem are then formed. Here is how a plant grows from a seed. You get a plumule and radicles, hypocotyl. Then you have an apical shoot from the stem and cotyledon and the roots coming out. So two comes out from a seed equally. One part goes down to the ground, the other part comes out of the ground. The xylem tissues build up inside the cambium and force it and the phloem further from the center. A tree trunk consists mainly of xylem tissue with a thin layer of phloem near the outside. In areas with well-marked seasons, the xylem shows annual rings. In the spring, when the sap is rising, the xylem consists mainly of large vessels, but in autumn there is a high proportion of fibers. Internal structure of a stem. The internal structure of the stem reflects the functions. There are conducting and supporting tissues. These are basically the same in all parts of the plant, and the description given here will cover roots and leaves as well. It is the arrangement of the tissues that roots and stems mainly differ. You can find out here. The center part is the heartwood. The next layer is the sapwood. Still next layer is a vascular cambium. Then you have a bark where you have a living folium and peridot. And then you have a cork cambium and a cork. The internal structure is studied by cutting very thin sections and examining them under a microscope. A suitable, easily obtained dicotyledon stem for study is that of a sunflower. A section of an internode cut a short distance from the tip shows the mature primary structure. The epidermal cells are regular and have a waxy cuticle on the outside. The cortex cells are simple and of the type known as paracentre. In the outer critical region, the cells have thicker walls for extra support and are known as collenchyma cells. The inner layer of the cortex is the starch sheath, whose cells have starch deposits within them. Inside the sheath is the stele made up of vascular tissue and pith. Here is the internal structure of a stem. It is a cross-section of mature plant stem. You find epidermis, cortex, phloem, cambium, xylem and pith. Internal structure of a stem. You have a conducting vascular tissue is arranged in vascular bundles. Each bundle has on the outside a number of sclerenchyma fibers. These are elongated cells whose walls have been impregnated with various chemicals known collectively as lignins. The fibers have no cytoplasm and are therefore not living cells. They are tough and elastic, enabling the plant to stand bending by the wind. The phloem is the tissue through which manufactured food is transported. It consists of elongated sieve tubes with large vacuoles. The ends of the tubes are perforated like sieve plates, allowing passage of the food solutions. Each sieve tube has a companion cell alongside it which regulates its functioning. There is usually some ordinary parenchyma tissue too. Different types of stems: stolon, tubers, rhizomes, bulbs, sections of bulbs, and volubile twinning. Structures for vegetative spread. You have here bulbs, tubers, rhizomes, stolons, bulbils, and turions, and of course some of them are none. Modified stems. Stems frequently perform other functions in addition to or instead of their basic ones. The chief modifications are concerned with food storage and vegetative reproduction. Runners are long, thin stems which over the ground surface and produce new plants some distances from the parent. Strawberries reproduce rapidly in this way. Horizontally growing underground stems are termed rhizomes. They may be food stores, as in iris, or merely reproductive shoots, as in some grasses. Potatoes are swellings, tubers arising on the underground parts of the stem. They serve as food storage and reproductive organs. These underground stems can be distinguished from roots by the presence of scale leaves and buds. Corms are special types of underground stems. They are swollen with food reserves and carry a number of scale leaves. One or more buds are developed in the axils of the leaves, and these buds produce the flowering shoot. Here you can see underground vegetables which has a stem, root. They are called rhizomes or corms. Bulbs. Onion is a corm. A beetroot or even a nullcole is a corm. Onion is a bulb. It has leaves, it has stem. Potatoes are tubers, and then you have runners too. The base of each new shoot forms a new corm. Corms are distinct from bulbs. The latter are small underground stems with a number of fleshy scales in which food material is stored. In both corms and bulbs, the flowering shoot is full formed underground and grows rapidly when environmental conditions are suitable. Next year's shoot develops in the axil of one of this year's leaves. Climbing stems are fairly common. They may climb by coiling round a support like a runner beams, by using tendrils, veins, or by using hooked pickles or to scramble over the vegetation like a blackberry. Protective spines often occur as stem modifications, like hawthorn, or as stem outgrowths. Stems are in some cases modified to perform as leaves. Butcher's broom has very leaf-like branch stems and its leaves are tiny scale. The stems of cacti also act as leaves and water stores. Stems acting as leaves are called phyllocotyledons. Stem function. Support of leaf display. The stem must be strong enough and flexible enough to position the leaves in the sunlight to optimize the photosynthesis of the plant. Stem function. Support of flower display. The stem must put the flowers into a correct, usually visible position to attract the appropriate pollinators. The stem must be able to support the weight of some perching pollinators. In the case of wind pollination, the flower must be positioned properly for male part to be upwind from the female part. Support of fruit display. A plant must be able to support its load of developing fruit. For wind dispersed fruits and seeds, getting the fruits up to the wind exposure is critical. For animal dispersed fruits and seeds, the stem must position the fruit for best display or best attachment to the animal parts. Conduct water and minerals up from soil. The flow of xylem continues from root to the leaves via the stem. The stem must not only conduct minerals and water up through the plant, but it must distribute it to all elements in the shoot system. Conduct water and nutrients, sugars and amino acids from photosynthesis in the real leaf are conducted by the phloem in the stem to the rest of the plant. This flow will be upwards from leaf to apical bud to flower or to fruit, as well as downwards from leaf to root. Photosynthesis. In some species such as cacti, the stem is the primary site of photosynthesis. In cacti, the leaves are converted to non-green spines and the branches to non-green areoles. So here you can see in the photosynthesis the sunlight, water, minerals. The sunlight and carbon dioxide from outside is going to the plant shoots, and water and minerals are going to the roots, and plant through the leaves is giving out oxygen, and through the fruit is giving out plant sugars. So carbon dioxide enters the leaves through stomata, tiny holes in the leaves. Storage of water. In the stems of cacti, in underground stems such as in potato and in the swollen hypocotyl of radish, water can be stored. Of course, this water needs to be protected from herbivory in desert situations. Defense. Desert plants have evolved spines and glochida to mechanically protect the stems from behavior. The stem must position these appendages and support them sufficiently for them to function. In other species such as Lophora williamsi, the peyote cactus, the stem possesses mescaline or other potent chemistry to deter and to kill herbivorous. Anchorage. Especially in vines, stems provide anchorage functions. This anchorage can be accomplished by twining, as in morning glory, by the formation of adventitious roots, as in position ivy, or by the formation of suction cups, as in Virginia creeper. The origin of the shoot. The stem and its shoot system originate at the shoot apical meristem. The photomicrograph is shown below of the primary meristems: protogerm, proto-ground meristem and provascular. You will notice that the zones of division and elongation are interrupted by nodes for leaf attachment. The shoot apical meristem also has appendages, leaf primordia. There is no cap on the shoot tip. It grows into the air and does not need protection from abrasion. However, the leaf primordia tend to arch over the zone of cell division to protect this tender meristematic tissue from herbivory and desiccation. This is a longitudinal section of a shoot tip. அரிசி ரெண்டரை போட்டு ஃபுல் தண்ணியை போட்டு ஃபுல்லா போட்டுட்டு என்னது அவர் அங்க ஜட்ஜி வீட்டுல வேலை பண்றாரு. அவரு அந்த அக்கா அங்க வேலைக்கு போகுது இல்ல, அவருக்கு என்ன 15,000-20,000 கொடுக்கறாருல. Roots are branched underground structures that serve two major functions. First, somewhat obviously, roots firmly anchor the plant to a fixed spot. Once a plant takes root and begins to grow in an area with good access to moisture, soil nutrients and light, it pays to stay. Second, roots serve as transport systems, allowing the plant to suck up water and dissolve nutrients from the soil to support the plant's growth. Roots have specialized parts that develop from the three major types of plant tissue: ground, dermal and vascular. Different types of roots: fibrous, tubercular, corline and taproot. Leaves. Leaves are the original solar panels capturing energy from sunlight in a biochemical process called photosynthesis. The cells within leaf tissues are hectic with biochemistry, importing water and nutrients to support their frantic work and exporting sugar to provide energy to the remainder of the plant. The import-export business conducted by the leaves is supported by xylem and phloem pipelines, which explains why leaves are so richly veined. Types of leaves: palmately compound leaf, pinnately compound leaf and simple leaf. In pinnately compound leaf you have rachis and leaflets. A bunch of leaf is palmately compound leaf. Leaf types: opposite, all basal, alternate, whorled, toothed and not toothed. A simple leaf have an entire leaf or a lobed type. A compound leaf are two types: palmate leaf, where all the leaflets are joined together with one stalk, and pinnate, which has a branched type of leaflets. Here are the different shapes of leaves: acicular, cordate, deltoid, peltate, elliptic, ensiform, falcate, hastate, lanceolate, linear, lingulate, oblanceolate, oblong, obovate, orbicular, oval, sagittate, spatulate, subutulate and tendril. Here the leaf shapes outlines. These are the leaves of different plants and trees: American beech, American hornbeam, American mountain ash, sycamore, bitternut, hickory, black cherry, black walnut, black willow, common hop tree, common horse chestnut, flowering dogwood, northern red oak, cracking aspen, red maple, red mulberry, sassafras, slippery elm, sugar maple, sweet birch, tulip tree, white ash, white poplar, yellow birch. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Like School Level 4. Human body system. Human body system. Human body system. Human body system. Skeletal system. Skeletal system is made up of your bones, ligaments and tendons. It determines the shape and symmetry of the body, acts as a protective device for your organs, acts as a firm base for the attachments of muscles. Without bones, your muscles would not function properly, and the marrow tissues in the cavity of the bones produces red cells and some white cells required in your blood. Endoskeleton. Humans have an endoskeleton, meaning that they are located inside the body. It consists of about 200 bones, exactly to say 206 bones. The number of bones varies because some bones fuse at different periods of time. Most bones are hollow with marrow cells inside. Ligaments connect bones to bones and tendons connect bones to muscle. Here is a skeleton. You have skull, shoulder bone, arm, elbow, wrist and hand bones, spinal cord and vertebra bones, hip bones. Complete skeletons, you have leg, knee and ankle, foot bones. Here are the names of the bones. The head bone is the skull, whole thing is called skull. In the hand, the upper part is called humerus. The lower part you have two big bones called ulna and radius. On the leg, the upper bone is called femur, and down you have two bones called fibula and tibia. Then you have a collarbone, it is called clavicle. Then you have at the back shoulder girdle called scapula. Then you have 12 pairs of ribs. Then 33 bones of vertebra. Then you have pelvis, and then the finger bones and toe bones are called phalanges. Axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. The skeleton are divided into appendicular skeleton. Bones of arms and legs are appendage and girdle, which attach them to the rest of the body, and axial skeleton, that is the skull, backbone or vertebrae, ribs and breastbone, or sternum. Axial skeleton, the skull is made up of number of bones fused together. The backbone is composed of 33 separate different size and shaped vertebrae, and each of them are composed of centrum, base portion, and neutral arch surrounded and protects spinal cord. Dear children, let me tell you the story of... Here is the vertebral column. You have the head attached, the skull is attached to the vertebral column. The top bones are called cervical vertebrae, that is, which forms the neck. Then you have thoracic vertebrae, then you have lumbar vertebrae, and then last sacrum vertebrae, and both are exterior and interior and posterior. And also you have coccyx, which sometimes formed into a tail. 12 pairs of flat bones make up the rib basket. Its function is to support the chest wall and prevent it from collapsing when the diaphragm contracts. Leg bones. Appendicular skeleton. Appendicular skeleton are made up of pelvic girdles, consists of 3 fused hip bones. Pectoral girdles consists of 2 collarbones, clavicles, and 2 scapulars, which are called shoulder blades. The axial skeleton, the appendicular skeleton, both put together, the whole skeleton is divided into a. Here you find the blue portion is the appendicular skeleton and the pink portion is the axial skeleton. This is how your body moves with your bones. How bones work? You have pivot, joint. There are different types of joints, and the joints help you to work. You have a pivot joint near the neck. Near the shoulder you have a ball and socket joint, and the elbow you have a hinge joint. Near the wrist you have a gliding joint. You also have a saddle joint, and then near the fingers, phalanges, you have condyloid joints. Joints. There are 4 types of joints. The part of junction between 2 bones is called a joint. Ball and socket allows freedom of movement in several directions. It can be found between humerus and scapula and femur and hip bone. Hinge joint allows movement in a single plane. An example of this joint can be found in your knee. Pivot joining allows freedom of movement of somewhat between ball and socket and hinge joining. It can be found in your wrist and ankle. Joints of the skull are extremely strong and immovable. Smooth and slippery cartilage covers the ends of the bones to reduce friction during the movement. You can look into this picture where you find different types of joints and a joint structure. Just see the knee and hip joint structures. The shoulder, and where the shoulder is attached, the hand is attached to the shoulder, you have a ball and socket joint. Near the elbow you have hinge, and then the pivot near the neck, and also ellipsoidal at the wrist. See how he is moving his joints. You can look into the bones of the foot and also the joints. Just see how the humerus and ulna are joined with the hinge joint. Muscular system. You have muscles of the face muscles, neck muscles, chest muscles, abdominal muscles, groin muscles, and the hand leg muscles. Closely observe this picture where you can see the muscles are attached to the bones. The human body contains more than 650 individual muscles which are attached to the skeleton, which provides the pulling power for us to move around. The main job of the muscular system is to provide movement for the body. The muscular system consists of 3 different types of muscle tissues: skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, and smooth muscles. Each of these different tissues has the ability to contract, which then allows body movement and function. There are two types of muscles in the system, and they are the involuntary muscles and the voluntary muscles. The muscle in which we are allowed to control by ourselves are called voluntary muscles, and the ones we can not control are the involuntary muscles. The heart or the cardiac muscle is an example of involuntary muscle. Cardiac muscle. The cardiac muscle is the muscle of the heart itself. The cardiac muscle is the tissue that makes up the wall of the heart called the myocardium. Also, like the skeletal muscle, the cardiac muscle is straightened and contracts through the sliding filament method. However, it is different from other types of muscles because it forms branching fibers. Unlike the skeletal muscle, the cardiac muscle is attached together instead of being attached to a bone. Skeletal muscle. The skeletal muscle makes up about 40% of an adult's body weight. It has strip-like markings, arched striations. The skeletal muscle is composed of long muscle fibers. Each of these muscle fibers is a cell which contains several nuclei. The nervous system controls the contraction of the muscle. Many of the skeletal muscle contractions are automatic. However, we still can control the action of the skeletal muscle, and it is because of this reason that the skeletal muscle is also called voluntary muscle. Smooth muscle. Much of our internal organs is made up of smooth muscles. They are found in the urinary bladder, gallbladder, arteries, and veins. Also, the digestive tract is made up of smooth muscles as well. The smooth muscles are controlled by the nervous system and hormones. We cannot consciously control the smooth muscles. That is why they are often called involuntary muscles. Check the muscle in the eye. Digestive system. Closely observe the digestive system. If you eat from your mouth, it will go into your mouth and get grounded by your teeth, and it will be mixed with the saliva which the salivary glands will produce. And then it gets into from pharynx through esophagus, it gets into your stomach. From there it will travel to liver and gallbladder, and through duodenum it will get into the small intestine, and there also from the pancreas the juice gets mixed up through the colon and caecum and appendix and ileum, and through rectum and through anus the waste material goes off. Closely observe this picture and see what happens where. First you will chew your food, and that food goes how it travels, go along with the food in your digestive canal. The digestive system contains organs for changing food chemically for absorption by body tissues. It is also responsible for processing food, breaking it down into usable protein, minerals, carbohydrates and fats, and other substances. The digestion process involves breaking food into simple soluble substances absorbable by tissues. The digestion process includes both mechanical and chemical process. The mechanical process includes chewing to reduce food to small particles, the churning action of the stomach, and intestinal peristaltic action. The three chemical reactions take place: conversions of carbohydrates into such simple sugars as glucose, breaking down of protein into such amino acids as alanine, and conversions of fats into fatty acids and glycerol. These processes are accomplished by specific enzymes. The digestive journey. The digestive process starts in your mouth when you start eating. The salivary glands produce secretions that are mixed with the food. The saliva breaks down, stretches into dextrin and maltose. Then it goes down your esophagus in peristaltic waves to the stomach. This only takes the matter of seconds. The stomach contains gastric juice, and the gastric juice contains chemicals such as hydrochloric acid and some enzymes, including pepsin, renin, and lipase. Pepsin breaks proteins into peptones and protozoes. Renin separates milk into liquid and solid portions, and lipase acts on fat. Another function of stomach digestion is gradually to release material into the upper small intestine where digestion is completed. After the solid food has been digested, the fluid remaining is called chyme. When it is thoroughly digested, it passes through the pilus sphincter to the small intestine. Here in the small intestine, all the nutrients are absorbed from the chyme into the bloodstream, leaving the rest of or the unusable residue. The residue passes through the colon or large intestine to the rectum. The solid waste called feces passes through the canal and the anus. Nervous system. Your nerves are spread all over your body. Here you have in your nervous system two systems, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Just see how the nerves spread out all your body. Nervous system of the human being is responsible for sending, receiving, and processing nerve impulses throughout the body. All the organs and muscles inside your body rely upon these nerve impulses to function. It could be considered as the master control unit inside your body. Sense organs provide the nervous system with information about the environment by means of such senses as sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, pressure, and pain. Nerves are connected throughout the whole body to the brain. They carry the information throughout the body in the form of electrochemical signals called impulses. These impulses travel from the brain and spinal cord to the nerves located throughout the body. For example, if we touch something, impulses travel through the nerve network to the brain at a rate of 350 per second. It is largely made up of specialized cells called neurons. Each of these neurons has a cell body or cyton which contains the nucleus and organ cells. It takes the corporation of three systems to carry out the mission of the nervous system. They are the central, the peripheral, and the autonomic nervous system. The central nervous system has the responsibility for issuing nerve impulses and analyzing sensory data and includes the brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system is responsible for carrying these nerve impulses to and from the body. Many structures include the many spinal nerves, craniospinal nerves, which branch out of the brain and the spinal cord. The autonomic nervous system is composed of the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems and is responsible for regulating and coordinating the functions of vital structures in the body. Areas of the brain. You have frontal brain, parietal brain, occipital brain, temporal brain, and cerebellum. Observe this picture of the brain, how the brain gets connected with the spinal cord. Then the lower part is called cerebellum. Then you have a temporal lobe, then olfactory bulb and occipital lobe. Then you have a parietal lobe, primary somatosensory cortex, then central sulcus, then you have a frontal lobe, and then primary motor cortex. Each cerebellar hemisphere consists of an outer layer of grey matter called the cerebellar cortex, about 3 to 4 mm thick. The cortex is composed of layers and then those cells which in turn cover an inner mass of the brain and which is called white matter. Our control center. It controls our whole body, including involuntary tasks such as blinking, breathing, and your heart beating. It also receives and produces countless signals from our body. So, examples of the kinds of signals it receives are sight from your eyes, sounds from your ears, and heat from your nerves. It also controls all the human emotions, including love, hate, and fear. From the outside, the brain appears as 3 distinct but connected parts. These are the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brain stem. The brain stem is where the brain connects to your spinal cord. The cerebrum controls much of your voluntary activities, and the cerebellum deals mostly with movement and involuntary motions. The cerebrum is the largest part of the human brain, making up approximately 85% of the brain's weight. Its large surface area and intricate development account for the superior intelligence of humans compared with other animals. The cerebrum is divided by a longitudinal tissue into right and left mirror image hemispheres. The corpus callosum is the slab of white nerve fibers that connects these 2 cerebral hemispheres and transfers important information from one to the other. This is our actual brain. Just observe. Circulatory system. Observe the picture. See how the blood circulates in the body. Heart beats. With every heartbeat, it is pumping. It is also called a pump station. The red lines denote pure blood. Blue lines denote impure blood. Pure blood is carried from the heart to the parts of the body, and the impure blood from the other parts of the body, it gets into the heart. The circulatory system is composed of vessels and muscles that control the flow of blood around the body. This process of blood flowing around the body is called circulation. The main components of the circulatory system are the heart, arteries, capillaries, and veins. Let's take a look at how blood travels around your body. The first step of blood leaves the heart from the left ventricle into the biggest artery called the aorta. The heart is a strong muscle which is divided into 4 compartments, the left and the right atrium and ventricles. It is important that fresh blood from the aorta goes directly to the brain because the brain needs oxygen constantly, otherwise we get irreversible damage. Another important organ for the blood to pass through is the lung. Here waste carbon dioxide is replaced with fresh oxygen. The pressure in the arteries is higher than in the veins. Blood returns to the heart through the veins. Observe, this is our heart, how it beats and how it functions. Respiratory system. Respiratory system. Just observe how you breathe in and how the air gets into your lungs. The other side you have the parts of the respiratory system. You have a nasal cavity, oral cavity, pharynx, larynx, tracheum, left lung and right lung, upper lobe, heart is inside your lungs, and blood vessels, and middle lobe and the lower lobe. The respiratory system main task is to supply oxygen to the blood and getting rid of waste gases. Carbon dioxide is the primary gas that the blood gets rid of. The upper structure of the respiratory system are combined with the sensory organs of smell and taste and the digestive system. When you inhale, that is breathing in, your skeletal muscle and the diaphragm contract, which then enlarge the chest cavity and cause the lungs to draw in air. This creates a partial vacuum in the thoracic cavity. Air passes through the nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, and then into the two bronchi to the lungs. Oxygen and carbon dioxide pass between the blood and the air in the alveoli, which are the end of the smallest bronchi. Oxygen diffuses from the inhaled air through the alveoli walls into the capillaries. The lungs contain more than 300 million alveoli. When you exhale or breathe out, your skeletal muscles and diaphragm return to the relaxed position, which decreases the size of the chest cavity and therefore pushes the air out of the lungs. The rib cage serves as a structural support for the whole thoracic arrangement, and pleural membranes help provide lubrication for the respiratory organs so that they are chuffed during the respiration. The air we exhale contains 100 times more carbon dioxide than inhaled air. In a resting position, a healthy individual will inhale and exhale approximately 16 times per minute. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Like School Level 4. Week 3 Concept Life Cycle. Life cycles. It's always a question. How do plant life cycles vary? How do animal life cycles vary? How are offspring like their parents? So these questions will be answered here. Just observe how a seed grows into plant and gives flowers, fruits, and again how the seeds get dispersed. Flowering plant life cycle. The flowers and fruit of flowering plants come and go as part of their life cycle. Some flowering plants don't even have stems and leaves all the time. The fruit and vegetables we eat come from different parts of the life cycle of various plants such as roots, stems, leaves, flowers, fruits and seeds. There is a good botany lessons to be found in food on our plate, which may include a few surprises. For example, if it has a seeds in it, to a botanist it is a fruit that includes tomato, pumpkin and cucumber. Gardeners need to know about plant life cycles so they can have food crops and colorful gardens all year round. Farmers and fruit growers need to know about plant life cycles so that they can predict when their crops will be ready. Flowering plants all go through the same basic stages of a life cycle. New plant grows from seed. When a seed comes to rest in conditions suited to its germination, it breaks open and the embryo inside starts to grow. Roots grow down to anchor the plant in the ground. Roots also take up water and nutrients and store food. A shoot grows skyward and develops into a stem that carries water and nutrients from the roots to the rest of the plant. The stem also supports leaves so they can collect sunlight. Leaves capture sunlight to make food for the plant through the process of photosynthesis. Adult plant produces flowers. When the plant matures and is ready to reproduce, it develops flowers. Flowers are special structures involved in sexual reproduction, which includes pollination and fertilization. Pollination. Pollination is the process by which pollen is carried by wind or animals from the male part of a flower, the anther, to the female part, the stigma of another flower. The pollen then moves from the stigma to the female ovules. Just observe. From seed, it will have seeds with leaves, then it is called seedling, then it becomes a small tree, then it becomes a growing tree, and then it becomes a mature tree with fruits that contain seeds. Again, fits from the fruit fall to ground and become seeds. Pollen has male gametes containing half the normal chromosomes for that plant. After pollination, these gametes move to the ovule where they combine with female gametes which contain half the quota of chromosomes for its plant. This process is called fertilization. Seeds and fruit. After fertilization, a combined cell grows into an embryo within a seed formed by the ovule. Seeds are what a plant uses to spread new plants into new places. Each seed contains a tiny plant called an embryo which has root, stem and leaf parts ready to grow into a new plant when conditions are right. Another part of the flower, the ovary, grows to form fruit which protects the seeds and helps them spread away from the parent plant to continue the cycle. Vegetative reproduction. As well as sexual reproduction, making seeds, new plants are sometimes made by asexual vegetative reproduction. These new plants have exactly the same genes as the parent. Some plants have stems called stolons that grow out sideways above the soil, and new plants grow up along with them. Other plants send out underground stems called rhizomes which form new plants at a distance from the parent. Tubers, for example potatoes, and bulbs, for example onions, are also special underground structures that can grow into new plants. Length of life cycles. Flowering plants all go through the same stages of a life cycle, but the length of time they take varies a lot between species. Some plants go through their complete cycle in a few weeks, others take many years. Annuals are plants that grow from a seed, then flower and make new seeds, then die, all in less than a year. Some go through this cycle more than once in a year. Biennials are plants that take 2 years to go through their life cycle. They grow from a seed, then rest over winter. In spring, they produce flowers, set seeds and die. New plants grow from the seeds. Perennials are plants that live for 3 or more years. Some such as trees, flowers and set seeds every year for many years. Some others have stems and leaves that die away over winter, but the plant continues to live underground. In the spring, new stems grow, which later bear flowers. The animal life cycle. The first one is the human life cycle, from where a fertilized egg grows into fetus, to baby, the child, teenager, adult, old age, and then they die. In the same way, you have the life cycles. All living things reproduce, and the similarities and differences between animals and their offspring vary it from one species to another. Although each living thing is different from others, the phases of its life cycle are predictable. It will be your job to investigate, observe and record these life cycle phases. So observe the life cycles of different animals, especially insects, and then see how you can investigate, observe and record their life cycle phases. Entomology for beginners. Entomology is the study of insects, a short story about the metamorphosis of insects. Metamorphosis of insects. In their development from egg to adult, insects change in form. The different instars are not alike, which is called metamorphosis. There are two general types of metamorphosis: simple metamorphosis and complete metamorphosis. Complete metamorphosis. In a complete metamorphosis, the wings develop internally during the larval stages. The larval stages look quite different from the adults. Between the last larval stage and the adult stage, there is a pupal stage which usually is inactive. Ladybugs. Let us learn the life cycle of a ladybug. There are many amazing and fascinating facts about ladybugs. Not all ladybugs are female. A female ladybug will lay more than 1,000 eggs in her lifetime. Most adults live 1 year. In that time can eat 5,000 aphids. Unlike ladybug adults, ladybug larvae look sort of like a tiny alligators. Before pupating, ladybug larvae can eat up to 400 aphids in 2 to 3 weeks. Ladybugs complete metamorphosis like butterflies. After the pupa stage, they emerge as mature adult ladybugs. When temperatures drop below 55 in the winter, ladybugs go through diapause or hibernation. They can survive in this state for up to 9 months. Once temperatures reach 55 degrees, ladybugs can fly again and begin their search for food. Ladybugs can migrate in groups, mostly to search for food. They can fly at 15 minutes per hour. Ladybugs are a type of beetle, insects with 6 jointed legs. Ladybugs have special organs in their feet to help them smell. They use their antennae to touch, smell and taste. Females lay their tiny eggs in yellow clusters under a leaf or stem, often near a colony of aphids, tiny garden pests that damage many plants. Within a week, the eggs hatch into alligator-shaped larvae that start gobbling up aphids, tiny worms and a variety of insect eggs. Both larvae and the adults are beneficial predators in the garden. The life cycle of a ladybug egg to mature adult takes 4 to 8 weeks. Life cycle of a ladybug takes just 4 to 8 weeks. Just observe. First, eggs are laid. From the egg, it gets into larva stage. From a larva, it gets into pupa stage. From pupa, it gets into adult stage. So we can say there are 4 stages of the life cycle of a ladybug: egg stage, larva stage, pupa stage and adult ladybug stage. Life cycle of a mosquito. Anatomy of a mosquito. Just see the anatomy of mosquito first. Abdomen, thorax, head and proboscis they have. Even the life cycle of mosquito, you have the same 4 stages: egg stage, larva stage, pupa stage and then adult mosquito. More than 3,000 species of mosquitoes have been described on a worldwide basis. Scientists group species by genus on the basis of physical characteristics they share. The 3,000 mosquito species found in the world are divided among 28 different genera. The genus Aedes contains some of the worst pests. Many members of the genus Anopheles have the ability to transmit human malaria. There are 3 genera of medicinal importance also, like Culex, Aedes and Anopheles. Morphology. Mosquito's body is a small, fragile, 6 to 3 millimeters long. It distinguishes of the sexes like antenna, plumose in male and pillows in female. It has palps and then external genitalia. It has mouth parts, piercing and sucking type, proboscis and 6 needles. Life cycle of a housefly. Life cycle of a housefly. A housefly's life cycle is divided into 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa and adult. At each stage, the housefly appearance changes completely. Observe the picture here, the life cycle of a housefly. It gives egg. Within 24 hours, it becomes larva. Then within about 5 days it becomes pupa. Within 3 to 6 days it becomes adult. And once it is adult, again within 2-3 days it gives eggs. Just observe, in olden days people used to be very careful about houseflies, and they used to take care of the housefly. Life cycle of a butterfly. Butterfly has a very amazing life cycle. First it gives eggs. The egg will be on the leaf. Then it comes into a stage called caterpillar. From the caterpillar stage it forms a pupa. And the pupa gets broken and a butterfly emerges out of pupa, and an adult butterfly comes out, a colorful butterfly comes out. Just observe how a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Enjoy the life cycle of a butterfly. Observe how from egg stage to caterpillar, caterpillar to larva stage, larva to pupa stage, and pupa to adult butterfly stage, how it emerges. The life cycle of a butterfly thus has eggs, caterpillar, then they grow, and then you have chrysalis, and then they become butterfly. Life cycle of a frog. Just see how the frog has its life cycle. First it lays eggs, and then it forms a frog span where many eggs will be there. From there they become tadpoles, and the tadpole swims into the water. Then it becomes a froglet, and the froglet has a big tail, and then it becomes an adult frog cutting down the tail. The life cycle of the frog. In early spring, adult frogs wake up from their long winter sleep and start making their way to breeding pools. Some frogs can travel as far as 1 mile to the pond, which is a long distance if all you can do is hop or crawl. When the frogs reach the pond, breeding begins with the male croaking loudly to attract the female. When he finds a female, he grabs her from behind with the help of special pads on his forelegs and holds on as tight as he can. As soon as the female releases her eggs into the water, they are fertilized by the male. Jelly babies. The eggs or frog spans are surrounded by jelly which absorbs water, swells up and floats to the surface of the pond where the sun warms. 1 clump of frog span can contain up to 4,000 eggs. Tadpole terrors. After about 10 days, a tadpole wriggles out of each egg At first, the tadpole breathes and moves like a fish, using its gills and long tail. But after about 5 weeks, the gills disappear and the tadpole develops lungs. It then has to swim to the surface of the water to gulp air. The tadpole has fleshy lips from rows of teeth for rasping away at water plants, and by 7 weeks it also eats insects and even other tadpoles. Froglet. By 8 weeks the back legs have formed, and by 10 to 11 weeks the front legs have also appeared. At 12 to 14 weeks the tail disappears and the tiny froglet is ready to leave the water. It will take 3 years before the froglet reaches maturity and the cycle starts all over again. Frogs do need water to complete their life cycle. Frogs do try to catch their prey. Frogs jump to catch their prey. How frogs work in their life cycle, if you see, the first stage is eggs, where it is in the frog sprang. Then you go to tadpoles. Then you have tadpole again with the rear legs. Then you have tadpole with front and rear legs. Then you have froglet with small tail. Then it becomes adult frog. The whole life cycle takes 3 years. Observe how the frog eggs turn to tadpoles and tadpoles swim across and come out as frogs. Why the offsprings look the same as parents? It's due to heredity. When two organisms reproduce, their offspring receive genetic instructions called genes from each parent. The genes determine which triads of characteristics each offspring will have. For example, you have a red-eyed female plus red-eyed male. Then they produce sapphire-eyed and 3 red-eyed and 1 sapphire-eyed offspring. Key concept. We say that like comes from like, but offspring do not always look exactly like their parents. We know now that physical characteristics are transmitted from generation to generation according to some general pattern. When we have sufficient information about the parents, we can predict the occurrence of triads in offspring, and by analyzing the offspring, we can discern the mode of transmission. Children resemble their parents. Since the beginning of human history, people have wondered how traits are inherited from one generation to the next. Although children often look more like one parent than the other, most offspring seem to be a blend of the characteristics of both parents. Centuries of breeding of domestic plants and animals had shown that useful traits, speed in horses, strength in oxen, and large fruits in crops can be accentuated by controlled mating. However, there was no scientific way to predict the outcome of a cross between two particular parents. It wasn't until 1865 that monk named Gregor Mendel found that individual traits are determined by discrete factors. later known as genes, which are inherited from the parents. His rigorous approach transformed agriculture breeding from an art to a science. He started with parents of known genetic background to provide a baseline against which to compare patterns of inheritance in the resulting offspring. Then he carefully counted the number of individuals showing the various traits in successive generations of offspring. How can children from the same parents look so different? Nature is absolutely amazing when it comes to reproduction. There is a system specifically designed to make children different. A person has a set of chromosomes. Each chromosome contains two halves that join in the middle so they look like an X. All that a chromosome is, by the way, is two very tightly coiled strands of DNA. The two halves of each chromosome come from the two parents. One half of the X in each chromosome comes from the mother and the other half comes from the father. The two halves are bonded together at the middle of the X. Each half of the X contains a complete set of genes, so each chromosome has two copies of every gene. The dominant gene of the two is the one that is expressed. A sperm and an egg meet to create a new person. The sperm carries one half of the new person's ultimate chromosome and the egg contains the other half. The question then comes down to, where does the DNA in the sperm and the egg come from? Every cell in the father contains a complete set of X-shaped chromosomes that are exactly alike. Same for the mother. The father's chromosomes came from his mother and father, and the mother's from her mother and father. This means that every sperm cell contains a random mix of father's parents' genes. The same thing happens when forming eggs. Therefore, each child that a complete produces is a random mix of the four grandparents' genes. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Like School Level 4. Academic Week 4 Concept. In this session, let us learn what are the responses of living things. How do the living things detect stimuli? What are inherited and learned behaviors? Living things must have characters. The characteristics like able to move, able to reproduce, and able to grow make more organisms like themselves. They also must have characteristics like be used as food by other organisms, have leaves, roots and stems, can fly, can walk, can go to school. So here are the examples like insects, plants, birds, worms, snails and weeds. And there are also non-examples like rock, steel, air, water, sound and fire. When we talk about characteristics of living things, we need to define a living thing, which is a difficult proposition, as defining life, that property possessed by living things. However, a living thing possesses certain properties that help define what life is. So here you have the characteristics of both animals and plants are both complex and organized. They acquire and use both materials and energy. They exhibit some capacity to regulate their internal conditions. They show the capacity for growth. They respond to stimuli and reproduce themselves, have the capacity to evolve. So the main characteristic here is they respond to stimuli. Complex organization. Living things have a level of complexity and organization not found in lifeless objects. At its most fundamental level, a living thing is composed of one or more cells. These units, generally too small to be seen with the unaided eye, are organized into tissues. A tissue is a series of cells that accomplish a shared function. Tissues in turn form organs such as the stomach and kidney. A number of organs working together compose an organ system. An organism is a complex series of various organ systems. Metabolism. Living things exhibit a rapid turnover of chemical materials, which is referred to as metabolism. Metabolism involves exchanges of chemical matter with the external environment and extensive transformations of organic matter within the cells of a living organism. Metabolism generally involves the release or use of chemical energy. Non-living things do not display metabolism. Responsiveness. All living things are able to respond to stimuli in the external environment. For example, living things respond to changes in light, heat, sound, and chemical and mechanical contact. To detect stimuli, organisms have means for receiving information such as eyes, ears, and taste buds. To respond effectively to changes in the environment, an organism must coordinate its responses. A system of nerves and a number of chemical regulators called hormones coordinate activities within an organism. The organism responds to the stimuli by means of a number of efforts such as muscles and glands. Energy is generally used in the process. Organisms change their behavior in response to changes in the surrounding environment. For example, an organism may move in response to its environment. Responses such as this occur in definite patterns and make up the behavior of an organism. The behavior is active, not passive. An animal responding to a stimulus is different from a stone rolling down a hill. Living things display responsiveness, non-living things do not. Growth. Growth requires an organism to take in material from the environment and organize the material into its own structure. To accomplish growth, an organism expands some of the energy it acquires during metabolism. An organism has a pattern for accomplishing the building of growth structures. During growth, a living organism transforms material that is unlike itself into materials that are like it. A person, for example, digests a meal of meat and vegetables and transforms the chemical material into more of himself or herself. A non-living organism does not display this characteristic. Reproduction. A living thing has the ability to produce copies of itself by the process known as reproduction. These copies are made while the organism is still living. Among plants and simple animals, reproduction is often an extension of the growth process. For example, bacteria grow and quickly reach maturity, after which they split into two organisms by the process of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent, and the resulting cells are generally identical to the parent cell. More complex organisms engage in a type of reproduction called sexual reproduction, in which two parents contribute to the formation of a new individual. During this process, a new combination of traits can be produced. The process is generally more complex than asexual reproduction, requiring that parents find one another than usually care for their offspring before it can be independently. Non-living things have no such ability or requirements. Evolution. Populations of living organisms have the ability to adapt to their environment through the process of evolution. During evolution, changes occur in populations and the organisms in the population become better able to metabolize, respond and reproduce. They develop abilities to cope with their environment that their ancestors did not have. If the living thing is responding to its stimuli, what is this stimulus and response? How do we classify the stimulus and response interactions? How do we describe stimulus and response interactions in an ecosystem that is abiotic and biotic? Stimuli is a change in the environment, internal and external, detected by a receptor, that is sunrise, a sound, increase in blood sugar. Response, change in an organism due to the stimuli. Reflex, a type of response that is rapid and unconscious. Example, blinking. Living things respond to stimuli. What is the response to the phone ringing? Answer the phone and say hello. Yes, you answer the phone and say hello. Stimulus, the phone rings, hear the phone ringing, and the response is answer the phone and say hello. A stimulus is a change in an organism's environment that affects the activity of the organism. A response is any reaction of a living thing to stimulus. The sun comes out. The stimulus is sun comes out. Response is rooster crows. So it is a circular connection. A stimulus, because there is a stimulus you respond, and because there is a response there is a stimulus too. Now you have a stimulus and perceiver's response, the present and the absent. You can understand that the stimulus present is, perceiver's response will be yes or no. Yes means hit, no means miss it. Absent is false alarm or correct rejection. Living organisms, one characteristic that distinguishes living organisms from non-living things is the ability to sense and respond to conditions or changes in the environment. Any substance or condition in the environment that causes an organism to react is called a stimulus. The reaction of the organism to a stimulus is called a response. Living organisms are able to sense and adjust to a variety of stimuli in the environment using special sensory receptors that help them detect changes in light, odor, sound, and textures. For a stimulus, there can be different reasons for responding. It might be fear, it might be responded with anger, it might get responded with confidence, or it gets responded with satisfaction. But there might be a response of doubt, response of relief, or response of grief, or response of joy. Any of the situations, every stimuli needs a response. Sensory receptors can be as simple as the sensory cells in jellyfish that are connected in a net-like arrangement, or as complex as the sensory organs in humans, such as eyes, ears, or nose. Why is it important for organisms to be able to respond to or interact with both the living and non-living parts of their environment? For example, ecosystem. You have a natural ecosystem and an artificial ecosystem. In a natural ecosystem, you have a terrestrial or aquatic. In aquatic, you have a fresh and marine. In fresh, you have lentic or lotic. Or marine, you have ocean or seas. In any of these ecosystems, individuals live. In order to meet the needs of a living organism and stay alive, there is a constant exchange of materials between an organism and the non-living parts of the environment. For example, living things are plants, animals, bacteria, fungus, and protists. And there is a non-living things which are necessary for the living things like water, soil, air, minerals, and life. The non-living parts of an organism's environment is called abiotic. A is not. Like water, soil, air, minerals and light, which is very important for every living thing. What are some of the examples of abiotic factors in an ecosystem? As we know, water, minerals, nutrients, solar reaction, disturbances, nature, soil organisms, minerals, nutrients, plant community, habitats, all these are important. We know that abiotic, that is non-living things like water, light, soil, rocks, wind are called abiotic factors of ecosystem. Now, abiotic factors of ecosystem are temperature, moisture, events like storm, fire, flood, nutrients and light. But ecosystem also have a biotic factors like species diversity, population numbers, biomass and productivity, competition and food webs. Here is an organism. What are the living parts of an organism's environment called? We know lot of abiotic things are there around an organism, that is wind, fire, solar radiation, temperature, relative humidity, day length, slope, soil and water chemistry, parent material, salinity, wave action, parasites, predators, competitors, humans and atmosphere gases. So from humans, you know, all these come into the organism. What are some examples of biotic factors in an ecosystem? As we have already learned, it is the predation, competition, symbiosis, mutualism, parasitism and disease agents which get influenced with the abiotic factors. Here is an organism interaction. It has a competition, it has a symbiosis. Like a biotic life gets animals, trees, plants, all these do get into these interactions, where in a symbiosis interaction you have exploitative, communalism and mutualism. Here are some of the responses for which abiotic factors are the stimuli. For example, a dog pants on a summer day. What is the factor? Water, light, air, cold, heat or soil? It is the heat. A cactus blooms after a rain. It is water. Birds hibernate in winter. It is cold. A lizard sits on a warm rock. It is the heat. Plants grow towards sunny areas. Again, this light. A runner breathes rapidly after a race because of the air. Plants use carbon dioxide to make food by photosynthesis. Again, it is the light. Or plant's root absorbs minerals needed for growth. Again, it is the soil. Frogs lay their eggs near the edge of a pond because of the water. Then what are inherited and learned behaviors? Inherited is a similar due to inheritance and similar due to other factors. Responses of living things. Behavior. The way an organism acts or responds to its environment. Here are few stimulus and response for various inherited and also learned behaviors. Environment, everything that surrounds and affects a living thing. External stimulus, anything in an organism's environment that causes it to react. Inherited behavior, a behavior that an organism is born with and does not need to learn. Instinct, a complex pattern of behavior that organisms of the same type are born with. Internal stimulus, a homework causing a child to become frustrated. Anything within an organism that causes it to react. Learned behavior, a behavior that is taught or learned from experience. A response, a reaction to a stimulus. Stimulus, anything that causes a living thing to react. Inherited, acquired and learned traits. Inherited traits. Dad gives baby 23 chromosomes and mom gives baby 23 chromosomes and the child gets 46 chromosomes, that is the 23 pairs of chromosomes. Journal response. How would you describe yourself? What is your hair color, eye color, short or tall, favorite hobbies besides video and computer activities, favorite sports. Key vocabulary, traits, characteristics of living thing. Inherited traits, a characteristic that a living thing gets from its parents before birth. Species, a type of living thing. Offspring, babies. Acquired trait, a trait that a living thing picks up while growing up. Behaviors, ways of acting. Instincts, inherited behavior. Migrate, move from one place to another. Hibernate, when animals sleep for a long period of time. Inherited traits. All living things have inherited traits. You look like your parents, brothers and sisters. People in the same family tend to look alike. Eyes, hair, skin color. Inherited traits. Plants and animals look like their parents and like other members of their species. Traits are passed on from parents to babies. For example, two black cats will most likely have black kittens. Acquired traits, traits that a living thing picks up during its life. They do not come from the parents. They are caused by interacting in the environment. Some activities are called learned behaviors. Example, taking lessons to learn to braille or to play the piano. Name something you have learned to do. or like the dogs learn how to do gymnastics. Inherited behaviors like animals are born with instincts that help them survive. For example, a bird builds a nest by instinct or a spider spins a web. Animals show different inherited behaviors based on their environment. Like geese, whales and other animals migrate to warmer places for survival. Inherited behaviors. Some animals hibernate during the winter. Some animals are active at night, especially if they live in dry, hot deserts. Why? Living things inherit traits in patterns. Parents and offspring are similar. Acquired trait, learned behavior. Inherited traits that resemble those of your parents. Factors that can be determined by heredity are physical traits and psychological traits. Physical traits, eye color, hair color, skin color, height, and psychological traits, personality factors, behavior patterns and disorders. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Like School Level 4. Academic 5 Concept. Heat. What is heat? Sources of heat. Characteristics of heat and melting and boiling. What is heat? Definition. Noun. The quality of being hot, high temperature. It is sensitive to both heat and cold. The verb form of heat is make or become hot or warm. There are very many synonyms for the word heat. Noun is warmth, order, fervor, and fire. The verb form is warm, heat up, warm up, and inflame. What is heat then? This is one of those questions that is simple and complex at the same time. Everyone has felt heat, but what is it? The simple answer is that heat is energy. Heat travels in waves like other forms of energy and can change the matter it touches. It can heat up, which starts molecules moving, or it can cause chemical reactions like burning to occur. Heat is often released along with other kinds of energy such as light, radio waves, or sound waves. A burning candle releases light and heat waves. An explosion releases light, heat, and sound waves. The sun releases all kinds of energy waves. Then what is energy? Physicists who are scientists who study force, motion, and energy say that energy is the ability to do work, and work is moving something against a force like gravity. There are a lot of different kinds of energy in the universe, and that energy can do different things. Energy can be found in many things and takes many forms. There is a kind of energy called kinetic energy in objects that are moving. There is something that scientists call potential energy in objects at rest that will make them move if resistance is removed. Sources of heat. The main sources of heat are the sun, basically a fusion reactor for this concentration. Burning things, combining almost anything with oxygen, and ignition sources like a match, like wood, oil products, magnesium, and a long list of others. Most fissionable materials, electric current through a resistive wire, any exothermic chemical reaction, a very long list including biomass, food digestion, muscle movement, and physical work like friction. We know that chemical, mechanical, electrical, and nuclear phenomena create thermal energy. Combustion is chemical, and we know that creates thermal energy. Mechanical action creates heat, and your vehicles break know this world. Electrical energy can be used to create heat in resistive heating elements. Nuclear reactions result in a jump in the energy of atoms and molecules involved, and this is expressed as heat. Food has energy stored in it which can be released as heat. Many other substances contain similar energy sources. Fuels are a good example. Solid fuels such as coal, liquid fuels such as gasoline and oil, and gaseous fuels such as propane and natural gas, all contain chemical energy. This chemical energy can be released as heat through the chemical process of burning. Just as an automobile engine burns fuel, your body burns food in the process of digestion. What foods have you eaten today to supply the energy your body needs? What would happen if you missed some meals? Friction. If the particles in a substance move more quickly, the average energy increases and the temperature of the substance goes up. Rub your hands together for 30 minutes, then place your palms on your cheeks. You will feel heat. Or rub the palms to any animal, to anybody, it produces heat. Same thing, take 2 coins and rub it to each other, it produces heat. The heat you feel is a result of a mechanical force called friction. Nuclear reactions. If you have been outside on a summer day, you have felt the heat from the sun. The sun produces this heat through a nuclear reaction. Inside the sun, atoms of hydrogen are joined together to form a large atom, helium. In this process called fusion, a small amount of the mass of a hydrogen atom is transformed into energy. Electricity. As electricity moves through a wire, it causes the particles in the wire to move. Some metals release more heat than others when electricity passes through them. For example, iron releases more heat than copper. In order for electricity to be used as a source of heat, we must first produce the electricity. There is more than one way to produce electricity. Characteristics of heat. How does heat move? Heat flows due to 3 ways: from hot to cold, by conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction is a way that heat moves. Heat is a form of energy, and when it comes into contact with matter, anything that you can touch physically, it makes the atoms and molecules move. Once atoms or molecules are moving, they collide with other atoms or molecules, making them move too. These then bump into other molecules and make them move too. In this way, the heat is transferred through matter. Convection is a very important way that heat moves on Earth, but is not very important in space. Convection happens when a substance that can flow, like water or air, is heated in the presence of gravity. When air or water is in the presence of gravity, the gravity pulls all of it down. The bottom of the air or water becomes denser because it is pulled down and also pushed down by the weight of the molecules on top of it. Radiation. Radiation happens when heat moves as energy waves called infrared waves directly from its source to something else. This is how the heat from the sun gets to Earth. In fact, all hot things radiate heat to cooler things. When the heat waves hits the cooler thing, they make the molecules of the cooler object speed up. When the molecules of that object speeds up, the object becomes hotter. Infrared waves are part of a spectrum of energy waves known as the electromagnetic spectrum. The electromagnetic spectrum includes all kinds of energy that can travel in waves, including light, heat, X-rays, radio waves, ultraviolet waves, and microwaves. Melting and boiling. Melted, melting, melts. To be changed from a solid to a liquid state, especially by the application of heat. To dissolve, sugar melts in water. As a verb, to change to a liquid state, especially by the application of heat. To dissolve, the tide melted out our sandcastle away. Or as a noun, a melted solid, a fused mass, a state of being melted. The melting point of a solid is the temperature at which it changes state from solid to liquid. When the characteristic freezing point of a substance is determined, in fact, the actual methodology is almost always the principle of observing the disappearance rather than formation of ice, that is the melting point. Boiling. Boiling. A liquid boils at a temperature at which its vapor pressure is equal to the pressure of the gas above it. As the liquid is heated, its vapor pressure increases until the vapor pressure equals the pressure of the gas above it. Bubbles of vaporized liquid form within the bulk liquid and then raise to the surface where they burst and release the gas. In order to form vapor, the molecules of the liquid must overcome the forces of attraction between them. The temperature of a boiling liquid remains constant even when more heat is added. The boiling point of a liquid is the temperature at which its vapor pressure is equal to the pressure of the gas above it. The normal boiling point of a liquid is the temperature at which its vapor pressure is equal to 1 atmosphere. Factors that affect the boiling point. Pressure. When the external pressure is less than 1 atmosphere, the boiling point of the liquid is lower than its normal boiling point. Equal to 1 atmosphere, the boiling point of a liquid is called the normal boiling point. Greater than 1 atmosphere, the boiling point of the liquid is greater than its normal boiling point. Welcome to Dr. Jaya's Virtual School. Like School Level 4. Academic Week 6 Concept. What is air? Properties of air. Characteristics of air. What air can do. What's in air? What is atmosphere? What is air? Air is a precious resource that most of us take for granted. Air supplies us with oxygen, which is essential for our bodies to live. Without it, we would die within minutes. Pure air is a mixture of several gases that are invisible and odorless. It consists of about 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and less than 1% of argon, carbon dioxide, and other gases, as well as varying amounts of water vapor. Adults breathe in about 10 to 20 cubic meters of air every day. That's about 20,000 breaths. Children breathe almost twice that amount because they are smaller and their respiratory systems are still maturing. There are numerous properties of air. The most common ones are as follows: temperature, density, specific heat capacity, thermal conductivity, and expansion coefficient. Characteristics of air. Air is made up of the gases nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. It has no definite size or shape. You can feel it moving. When contained, like in a balloon, it expands when heated and contracts when cooled. Nearly all of the Earth's atmosphere is made up of only 5 gases: nitrogen, oxygen, water vapor, argon, and carbon dioxide. Several other components also are present. Water vapor. Air can contain as much as 5% water vapor, more commonly ranging from 1 to 3%. The 1 to 5% range places water vapor as the third most common gas. What's in the air we breathe? Adults breathe 50,000 quarts of air daily. Children even more. What is the atmosphere? The atmosphere is a mixture of gases that surround the earth. It is the air we breathe, the wind and rain, and the clouds in the sky. It is life-giving, retaining heat, and blocking out harmful rays from the sun, that is the ultraviolet radiation. The atmosphere is about 1,000 kilometers thick and is made up of invisible layers that circle the planet. We live in the lowest and the thinnest layer called the troposphere, which is only about 14 kilometers thick. Above the troposphere is the stratosphere. This is the relatively quite stable band of air in which the ozone layers is found and where our emissions of greenhouse gases and ozone depleting substances go. There is no exact place where the atmosphere ends. It just gets thinner and thinner until it merges with outer space. What What is air quality? The term air quality means the state of the air around us. Good air quality refers to clean, clear, unpolluted air. Clean air is essential to maintaining the delicate balance of life on this planet, not just for humans, but wildlife, vegetation, water and soil. Poor air quality is a result of a number of factors, including emissions from various sources, both natural and human-caused. Poor air quality occurs when pollutants reach high enough concentrations to endanger human health and or the environment. Our everyday choices, such as driving cars and burning wood, can have a significant impact on air quality. Ambient air quality. Ambient air quality refers to the quality of outdoor air in our surrounding environment. It is typically measured near ground level, away from direct sources of pollution. Indoor quality. Air pollution isn't only an outdoor problem. The air in enclosed spaces such as homes, schools, or workplaces can also be polluted from pollutants that have spread in from the outdoors and pollutants emitted from indoor sources. In fact, some kinds of air pollution can be worse indoors than outdoors, such as tobacco smoke, mold, and chemicals released from synthetic fabrics, furnishings, and household products. Factors affecting air quality. The amount and kind of pollutants that are released into the air play a major role in determining the degree of air pollution in a specific area. However, other factors are involved, mainly topography, terrain such as mountains and valleys, weather such as wind, temperature, air turbulence, air pressure, rainfall and cloud cover, and the physical and chemical properties of pollutants. Poor air quality can result from a combination of factors. Regional air quality is affected by how air behaves as a result of the interaction of topography and weather and by the emission sources themselves.
One day, Rohan was blowing his tire. When he was blowing his tire, Ali came there. He asked him, "What are you blowing in the tire?" "I am blowing air in the tire." "So when you blow the air in the tire, what happens?" "It bloats," means it becomes fat. "I am so thin. Can you blow air into me?" "No, I cannot blow air into you because air will not get into you. But I will wear a plastic big cover on me. Can you blow into it?" "Yes, I can blow into it." Ali brought a plastic and covered himself fully, and he was inside the plastic. He said, "Blow the air." He blew the air. Suddenly Ali went up. He was flowing in the air. He went up and up. Then Rohan was worried. He called everybody around. "Ali is flying! Ali is flying!" So all came. They started pulling Ali down with the ropes, and Ali was still going up, but they started pulling down. Ali started laughing. "I am flying in the air. Nobody can bring me down." Then Rohan thought, "Oh, I bloated him. So let me take out the air. He will fall down." So he just punctured his balloon and he fell down. Ali was actually having a balloon along with him.